What is a basic skill that you grew up thinking everyone had until you saw others do it so horribly?
Using a washing machine and dryer.
Explaining things. If I explain something and someone tells me they don't understand, I explain it again, but frame or phrase it differently. I will never understand why so many people think just saying the exact same words again in a more exasperated, condescending tone is at all effective.
And louder. Please yell the same sentence again, it should clear things up. I had a friend who grew up with maids. He was 18 and gay and his family kicked him out. So he got this tiny little rundown studio apartment in Los Feliz. He was super proud of it, and invited me to see it. He was using candles to light it when I got there, maybe to save money, maybe to hide the blemishes, and had left an ashtray on the floor, which I accidentally kicked and got cold ashes all over his carpet. He freaked the F out. What do I do? How am I going to clean that? With a vacuum, I replied, confused as to why this was a mystery. He didn't have one, so he went to ask the building manager if there was one he could borrow, which there was. He pulls this standard upright vacuum into the middle of the room and then stares at it. After a few seconds wondering what he was doing, I asked, "Do you not know how to use a vacuum?" "No, you have to understand, we always had maids. I never even made a bed before last week. So I plug it in, turn it on, and take it a couple times back and forth across part of the carpet." Then, like a child with the Fisher-Price popper vacuum, he went to work. He was over the moon excited. 25 years later, it's a favorite memory of that person.
At least he was willing to learn.
Mopping, sweeping.
This is true. The floor always come out somewhat dirty every time I sweep it. I kid you not, I lived with a guy once who had a butler his whole life. Things I taught him. 1. The funky knife with a hole in it is not useless, it's a potato peeler. 2. You open cans with a can opener. 3. Nothing needs to be microwaved for 10 minutes. For the record, I really liked this guy and he was incredibly fun and kind.
I need to know what he put in the microwave for 10 minutes.
Laundry, especially emptying the dryer lint. So many places of state had bad dryers that were packed full of lint. How these people did not start a fire is amazing.
It won't dry anything. Well, yeah, it's choking to death.
It's still pretty amazing watching how some people use their phones and computers. Like you could give some leeway in the 90s and earlier, computers back then were fairly complicated for a lot of functions. But after 30 plus years of design refinements to make them about as easy to use as possible, plenty of people, including younger people, interact with them as if they're afraid it will get mad at them personally if they mess up. Being able and willing to figure stuff out. A lot of basic skills aren't that complicated. And in this day, if it is complicated, the internet almost certainly has dozens, hundreds, or more tutorials. Quitting because I don't know how should not be the answer. I wish more were taught to figure things out, or seek the help, answers to get it done. Edit. Being, not begin.
I'm shocked at how bad some people are at following written directions. Not travel, but like assemble furniture, follow a recipe or experiment, read an instruction manual.
And here I am thinking building IKEA furniture is fun.
Being gentle with your things. Anytime we get help from siblings and their spouses, I'm astounded by how roughly they treat all of their things, how rough of a job they're okay with accepting. Also, when assembling furniture, my best mate put together a set of shelves using a drill as a driver on the short and easy to insert Allen keyed screws. Stripped half of the heads and forced a few in at slightly off angles and also stripped their threads a bit. Like, what are you doing, bro? Could have just used an Allen key by hand and put it together in the same time without damaging anything. Edit. A number of people have mentioned using the driver with the right torque setting and an appropriate amount of skill. Yes, I agree, this is perfectly fine. I didn't mean to say you should never use a driver to assemble furniture, but more that you should know how to use your tools, use what is necessary, and do it with the right level of enthusiasm, strength.
This was what astonished me in the before 4 times, back when blockbusters were still everywhere. The insane damage to DVDs and game discs baffled the hell out of me. I couldn't fathom how people were effing up the simple process of removing a disc from a case and placing it into the tray of a console, then reversing the process to place it back into the case. Then I saw my friend and his family and how badly they treated their own games and DVDs that they owned. That was when I realized at a young age that there are just different types of humans, ones that just don't take care of anything that's anywhere within their general vicinity.
I forgot about discs. That's a perfect example.
Using the index of a book.
So, I spent a year working with at-risk youth at a high school. There was this one day this boy was doing homework and said something like, "I wish there was a part in books that told you where in the book you could find what you're looking for." And I was like, let me show you something.
I thought that everyone younger than me knows how to do basic computer troubleshooting. Turns out a fair of people younger than myself don't know how to look up answers online. It honestly baffled me.
I teach high school. The biggest issue is that everyone has assumed these kids know how to use the computer simply because they've always been around them while growing up. But no one has taught them how the F to use the damn things. I've got kids who come into junior or senior year of high school not knowing how to center a title and trying to do it with the spacebar. God forbid they need to do anything complex.
Basic awareness of when to call emergency services. I recently saw a guy having a seizure on the ground on a busy street. There were 100+ people standing around watching him. I shouted, "Has anyone called an ambulance?" And everyone looked at me blankly. People were recording with their phones but hadn't thought to call an ambulance for the guy. This is in the UK, so it's free to call an ambulance, and the man's hospital treatment would have been free. The whole thing freaked me out. Edit. Just to say I've been inundated with comments and DMs about the bystander effect. Thanks for your messages, but I am already familiar with this phenomenon. I am a psychologist.
As someone who works on an ambulance, I've lost all faith in people. Like you tweaked your knee 3 months ago and waited until the middle of a snowstorm to call 911. Or on the other end of the spectrum, there are normal families that see grandpa suddenly confused and unable to remember his own name, and they'll wait 3 whole days before calling his doctor.
Cooking, using a washer and dryer, cleaning. Most importantly, cleaning. I had a terrible experience with some roommates, just couldn't clean up after themselves, forgot who's made the mess, and would constantly blame the house being dirty on me. Me, who would literally wash every plate after I used it, never left a dish in the sink, would take out the trash fairly often for everyone, and whenever I had guests over, I cleaned up the apartment and left it the way I found it, if not better. Had to move back into my mom's house for peace of mind. I would have caught a charge back there, eventually.
Hygiene.
This is a big problem. My parents didn't teach me good hygiene. I stank all the time, and it's not something people will tell you about. They will complain to people around you. My wife taught me better hygiene, and it has changed my life. I'm doing much better professionally, and random strangers are no longer mean to me seemingly for no reason. I wish there was a good resource I could refer my stinky friends to so they could learn about it.
Basic cooking skills. I once saw a guy try to cook pasta by dumping raw pasta shells in a frying pan with a little oil. Edit. Oh wow, I didn't expect this many replies.
I heard a story a few months back about a kid, 19, 20-something, moved out on his own. He was asking how often he needed to clean his oven because he was doing it daily and complaining about how much of a chore it was. After some clarifying questions, it came out that he was not putting his meat in baking dishes or pans. Apparently he was slathering up his meat with whatever seasoning and then cooking it straight on the baking rack.
Swimming. I feel like I need to be a lifeguard every time I go swimming and watch some people flail wildly in the water they could just stand in.
Yes, I live in Australia where pretty much everywhere is on the coast, so water sports is a part of everyday life. The amount of people coming to live here from landlocked countries and not knowing that being able to doggy paddle doesn't mean you can swim.
I'm still amazed at how many people my age still can't use computers properly. I don't mean in the too old or too poor category, I'm talking about the sheer number of people in my age group who skipped past computers and went straight to smartphones. I'm 21.
Blows my mind how many computer illiterate people are apparently aptly named because they just don't read what's on the damn screen.
The scientific method. My public school science teachers drilled us over and over on critically designing experiments. I thought that was normal. Turns out, my hometown just has really good public schools. My 8th grade English teacher had a doctorate.
I'm convinced the reason misinformation spreads so easy is that so few people know how to accurately use the scientific method for themselves and to spot obviously fake poo.
That, and propaganda is designed to invoke deep emotion and bypass rationality. Fear is a lot of people's off switch. Cooking.
See now there, I grew up horrible at it, and it was a ex-girlfriend in my mid-20s who beat some ability into me, and I've been honing it all through my 30s as a husband and father. As a result, I solo-ed Thanksgiving dinner this week for 20 people. But I still have the utmost sympathy for anyone who can't cook. There's definitely the feeling of being way out of your depth if handed a recipe and you just don't know what to do .
Writing an email with proper grammar and formatting seems obvious and easy to me, but I see so many people at work who are just the worst.
How about answering all of the questions asked in an email?
Writing, and I don't mean grammatically perfect pieces or novel writing. I am amazed how many people can't do basic level writing stuff like putting sentences in logical order, using basic punctuation and grammar, etc. I am not a world-class writer, but years of Catholic school taught me the basics. I occasionally proofread papers for younger family members and honestly don't even know where to start. The grammar issues I can deal with, but the total lack of organization in paragraphs drives me crazy because I basically end up rewriting the damn paper so it makes some kind of sense.
When I started teaching remedial writing to college students, it took me so much mental power to deconstruct the process, cause it seemingly always came naturally to me. I'd never had to think about it. My favorite is dialogue. I didn't realize you had to teach people how to write the way they speak. My initial reaction was, wait, don't you know how you speak?
Basic first aid. Buddy in college got cut and didn't understand how to make it stop bleeding and bandage, disinfect it properly. I was amazed.
Sewing. I thought I was a mediocre sewer because I wasn't great at cross-stitch and embroidery. Turns out fixing a button or seam is a skill.
Oh my gosh. My husband was ready to toss a shirt because a button was missing. I took one from the bottom edge, moved it to the missing button's location and sewed it on. The man stood there watching dumbfounded and asked how I learned to do that. We've been married 20 years. He's seen me sew a quilt but a button blew his mind.
Reading a map. I grew up traveling long before computers. I've handed several adults paper maps while driving and they didn't even know how to find where we were. I guess it isn't a skill you need anymore though.
The real skill is refolding a paper map after you're done with it. Can't be done. Nope. For me, it was sweeping. I honestly don't know how a young adult can't hold a broom, but I swore I had a stroke that day, and every day I see him sweep.
How to use a effing gate woman facepalming light skin tone.
Buddy, please. I just found out that people can't use a hammer. Don't tell me they can't use a gate. Who the hell can't use a effing gate?
When you come to a gate, leave it how you found it. Closed equals FCK off or close it after going through it. Open equals leave it the F alone. Very scientific.
Confrontation.
Confrontation makes my blood boil, my hands shake, voice quiver, and likely tears. Good on ya for having that figured out.
Bagging groceries. I mean, isn't it common sense to put all the frozen items in one bag, produce in another, raw meat by itself in a bag, cleaners separate from food? Does it really have to be taught that you shouldn't put a cantaloupe on top of bread?
I fill and unload my cart so all the canned and bottled items come down the conveyor first, then the frozen, then the meats, etc., and am still amazed at how my groceries are bagged.
Thank you for watching. We upload new videos every day, so be sure to come back for more fun. Please consider liking and subscribing if you enjoyed the video.